high-value reprints. Those were actually just basic lands. I needed a visual demonstration. I needed to get your attention. Don't click away. Well, Dominaria Remastered has got them and got them in full force. But just how high value are we talking? Today, I've curated the top 5 most expensive reprints you can open in Dominaria Remastered. For this evaluation, I will be focusing on the standard art printings of the cards. Old border and borderless versions contained in collector boosters will assuredly carry an even higher premium, but I want to focus just on the lowest you could spend on these high-value reprints. It makes sense if you think about it. What are the most expensive reprints in Dominaria Remastered, and why are they so expensive? All those crazy rare art collector booster cards are distracting people from the real value that has really been reprinted in this set. So, without further ado, presented here are the top 5 most expensive cards reprinted in Dominaria Remastered. But first, I didn't even say happy 2023. Oh my God, it's 2023. Well, like many of you, I'm thinking a lot more about how to eat healthier and cook more this new year. That's why I'm really glad to have HelloFresh sponsor this video. HelloFresh is a meal kit delivery service that makes it easy to eat well and save money. Their top quality ingredients come from the farm to you in less than 7 days, so are always fresh. Hey, just like the name! Meals like their Fast and Fresh line are ready in less than 15 minutes. You know, after working all day, I really do find it hard to have the energy to cook a meal, and I'm often tempted to turn to unhealthy, takeout, or expensive delivery food. But rather than having French fries that are soggy from sitting in a delivery person's car, wouldn't you rather have Southwest pork and bean burritos or falafel power bowls ready from your own kitchen? Restaurant quality meals from my own kitchen, saving me time and money? Yes, please. So use my link or go to HelloFresh.com and use code POGTCCJAN21 for 21 free meals plus free shipping. Once you click, my description will live update to count up the purchase. So do yourself a favor and try it out. And thank you, HelloFresh, for sponsoring this video. So what are the top 5 most expensive reprints in Dominaria Remastered? Well, coming in at number 5 for Once We Were Lost, but Now Are Found. This spot on the list goes to Enlightened Tutor. Enlightened Tutor is an instant spell that costs 1 white mana. It states, search your library for an artifact or enchantment card, reveal it, then shuffle and put that card on top. Wow, I just love these classic cards that can fit their entire effect into just one sentence. But don't mistake simplicity for a lack of power. For 1 single mana at instant speed, Enlightened Tutor is capable of finding over 5,600 different Magic the Gathering cards to put on top of your library. While of course, most of those artifacts and enchantments aren't enticing targets to tutor, the power of getting the most optimal one in our deck that we need at any given moment cannot be overstated. Is your opponent playing a highly aggressive token creature deck whose board threatens your life total in just a turn or two? On their end step, let's use Enlightened Tutor to find crawl space. We'll draw it on our turn and guarantee their go-wide strategy is reduced to a manageable crawl. Or perhaps we notice our opponent building their combo engine piece by piece and their inevitable turn of storms and cascades is on the horizon. Let's use Enlightened Tutor to set up our next draw, grabbing Eidolon of Rhetoric and assuredly throwing a massive wrench in their contemplations of comboing out. Having the solutions to so many of your problems at a whim may only cost 1 mana, but the card itself costs well over $30 even now that it's been reprinted in Dominaria Remastered. The bottom of our list of expensive cards, this is still one that you are going to be very pleased to pull from a pack in a draft, which is of course what you should be doing with Dominaria Remastered. Next up on the list, they say that knowledge is power. Well, I say that knowledge is power, even though I majored in English. Why did I major in English? And they're right. But other than a tutor, what's perhaps the best place for you to gain knowledge? No, it's not at a community college. It's the library, of course. Coming in at number 4, it's Sylvan Library. Sylvan Library is an enchantment that costs 1 green and 1 generic mana. It states, at the beginning of your draw step, you may draw 2 additional cards. If you do, choose 2 cards in your hand drawn this turn. For each of those cards, pay 4 life or put the card on top of your library. Remember how I praised Enlightened Tutor for having all of its effects in one easy-to-understand sentence? Do you miss that? I do. So if this effect sounds confusing initially, don't worry, you're not alone. Somewhat notorious for being unintuitive at first. Once you do feel the full effect of Sylvan Library, you may also understand why they've decided to upshift it from a rare to a mythic rare for this set. Well, they probably upshifted it because it's a valuable chase card, and they want to keep it that way, but let's give them the benefit of the doubt. Maybe. To help convey the effect that Sylvan Library has on our draw step, let's take a step back and look at the phase as if it were a decision tree. Decision 1, keep the best card drawn out of your top 3 cards and lose no life. Decision 2, keep the best 2 cards drawn out of your top 3 cards and lose 4 life. Or Decision 3, keep all 3 of your top 3 cards drawn and lose 8 life. Having access to this decision tree on our upkeeps is a rate of card advantage and filtering that most spells only dream of. Blue is the color most associated with card draw, and even it runs blue with envy at the output of our lean, mean green machine, the Sylvan Library. Fittingly, this enchantment happens to pair tremendously with blue cards, as blue cards often have synergy with card draw. A signature strength of Sylvan Library is that even if we choose to put back 2 of the cards we drew, they are still technically drawn and thus trigger card draw effects. A Teferi's Ageless Insight in play means we draw 5 cards on our draw step instead of 3. And our Toothy Imaginary Friend is going to be gaining 3 +1/+1 counters every draw step instead of just 1. The value and synergies are nigh endless here, and you mustn't let the downside of losing life dissuade you from appreciating this card's potential. Sylvan Library is a difficult card to master, but just like a regular library, the rewards of us investing in one are assuredly bountiful. Another card worth over $30. This may not be the best for that draft that you're playing in, but it certainly won't be an unwelcome sight as your rare. Mythic. Oh God, mythic. Moving right along on our list, next up we've got someone who almost assuredly spent far too much of his life in the library. No, it's not me. And this person spent it in that fancy library over at the Tolarian Academy, not the community college. Well, we've got an almost complete collection of Garfield comic books in our library. What do they have in theirs? What did he really gain? Coming in at number 3 for most expensive reprint in Dominaria Remastered, it's Urza, Lord High Artificer. The man, the myth, the legend, the greatest villain in Magic the Gathering. This absurdly pushed mono blue spell does kind of everything. Honestly, if you're talking about how powerful Urza as a planeswalker is, just look at him as a legendary. Here, Urza Lord High Artificer is a 1/4 legendary human artificer that costs 2 generic and 2 blue mana. Winning this list's reward for most words on a card, Urza states, oh my god, look at all of this. When Urza Lord High Artificer enters the battlefield, create a 0/0 colorless construct artifact creature token with... This creature gets +1/+1 for each artifact you control. But wait, there's more! His second ability continues. Tap an untapped artifact you control, add 1 blue mana. And finally, pay 5 colorless mana, shuffle your library, then exile the top card. Until end of turn, you may play that card without paying its mana cost. Each of Urza's 3 primary abilities is a juggernaut of value worth diving into, so let's start at the top. His Enter the Battlefield ability is capable of producing an exceedingly growing construct army, as long as we blink him with the likes of Ephemerate and Conjurer's Closet. His second ability to tap artifacts we control to add blue mana means our treasure tokens take on a whole new life, no longer needing to be sacrificed to gain mana. And finally, the ability to pay 5 mana to play a free card from the top of our deck means we always have an outlet to sink our mana into. And should we have access to infinite mana, let's not overlook the fact that this ability quite literally allows us to play our entire deck. Urza, being one of the most powerful characters in the Magic the Gathering lore, is assuredly represented on this 4-mana card. And though initially printed in a Modern Horizons set, this card sees play in all formats it is legal in, which is why it has a price tag in the $40 range. Hey, reliable game-winning value like this doesn't come cheap, though its reprint in Dominaria Remastered does help it be all the cheaper than it was before. Yay, reprints! But if you think this value train is well on its way to the end of the line, you are mistaken. We're just getting rolling. What are the top 2 most expensive reprints in Dominaria Remastered? Perhaps no singular card in Magic the Gathering encapsulates the raw power of black mana like the number 2 spot on our list, Vampiric Tutor. Vampiric Tutor is an instant that costs 1 black mana and states, search your library for a card, then shuffle and put that card on top. You lose 2 life. Where our number 5 card, Enlightened Tutor, was already an absurdly flexible effect, grabbing us any artifact or enchantment in our deck, Vampiric Tutor takes things the extra mile. It allows us to grab any card in our deck, period. The only downside being a meager cost of 2 life. I do not think any reasonable player would argue if Wizards of the Coast stated they would never again create a tutor as powerful as Vampiric. This card is banned in Legacy, where it keeps company with other banned cards such as the Power 9 in that regard. It is restricted in Vintage, again alongside the Power 9, and in that format meaning you may only play 1 copy in your deck rather than the usual 4. Vampiric Tutor is so powerful that it essentially is relegated to the highest tier, and most blinged out commander decks capable of running it, and it will remain a cornerstone of competitive Commander for as long as the format exists. Though reprinted several times before, its reprint is once again welcome here, as that price can't seem to crack too far below $40. But you know what many Magic the Gathering players say? Glory at any cost, though, that's quite a cost. So what is the most expensive reprint in Dominaria Remastered? Well, it's the sort of thing you would expect to see in a Masters set. Is Remastered set a Masters set? Either way, coming in at number 1, it's Force of Will. Uncontested, auto-included, and assuredly a footnote in card design history, the number 1 spot on this list resoundingly goes to Force of Will. They reprinted Force of Will! Force of Will is an instant that costs 3 generic and 2 blue mana. It reads, you may pay 1 life and exile a blue card from your hand rather than pay this spell's mana cost. Counter target spell. So, true story, I was still playing Magic the Gathering in high school when Alliances, the set that originally had Force of Will, came out, and the card was uncommon there, and I thought it was trash. And I wasn't alone in this. It's like, why would you want to throw away a perfectly good card in your hand just to counter a spell when I could have counterspell and counter a spell? So Force of Will after Force of Will after Force of Will from the many booster packs I cracked back then just ended up in my bulk bin, which I later sold when I moved away to college. My friend at the time saved his collection, and after going through his folder of rares, I thought, do you still have those bulk binders of all the commons and uncommons that you just saved? And he said, sure. And we found quite a few pack fresh Force of Wills in them. True story. Seeing heavy play in all formats it is legal in, Force of Will is arguably the best counterspell in all of Magic the Gathering. This might sound like a strong claim for a counter that has a mana value of 5 and makes us lose life. But the truth is, we pay 0 mana to cast this spell 99% of the time. As long as it isn't for our final life point, paying 1 life is always a cost we can afford if it means stopping our opponents dead in their tracks. Paying 0 mana to counter any spell is downright game warping. And Force of Will is the best version of this effect available. Force of Negation and Fierce Guardianship are both excellent 0 mana counter spells in their own right, but whereas these spells can only be used to counter non-creature spells, Force of Will has no problem at countering our opponent's game-winning Vornicles and Elish Norns. Similarly, counter spells such as Thwart and Foil could cost us 0 mana to cast, but the conditions required to do so are so much harsher that they end up paling in comparison to Force of Will's far more reasonable condition of 1 blue card and 1 life. Long ago, a card that ran $150 and up a piece, it has been reprinted enough times, and again here, to bring it down below the $100 mark, though not by that much. And all of this means that if you end up cracking a Force of Will in your draft, you've very nearly paid for an entire booster box. Well, of a standard set. I don't know, how much is Dominaria Remastered booster boxes going for? Probably more than $100. But how much more? No one knows, not even Wizards of the Coast. I hope very much this video has been of some help, or at the very least enjoyment to you. You know, it's my belief that the best outcome I can achieve with these financially focused lists, and the outcome I hope for most, is that I am able to help you, the player, the customer, make more informed decisions about your purchases when it comes to our favorite hobby. And while it may seem like a list of super expensive reprints and packs is an encouragement to just purchase and crack packs, my #1 piece of advice of worth is to participate in a draft of Dominaria Remastered at your local game store, wherein you might not only crack open these high-value cards or the many, many, many other high-value cards in Dominaria Remastered, but better still than all of that, you'll get to sit down and play Magic the Gathering. Maybe even win, maybe even get a few bonus packs. Which is why I always say, whether you are buying singles or packs, card sleeves or deck boxes, when it is possible, when it is reasonable to do so, try and spend that money where you spend time playing this great game. And that's at your local game store. You're supporting your Magic the Gathering community. Hey, thanks again to HelloFresh for sponsoring this video. Are you ready for restaurant quality meals from your own kitchen to save you both time and money? How could you not be? So use my link or go to HelloFresh.com and use code POGTCCJAN21 for a whopping 21 free meals plus free shipping. Once you click, my description will live update to count those purchases, so do yourself a favor and try out HelloFresh for yourself. Thank you for sponsoring this video.
Next time on Shuffle Up and Play.
I have given $50 to build a deck with, including Commander.
I've brought Safara Sky's Blade.
I'm playing Hidetsugu, the Varying Chaos.
I'm playing Gorex, the Tomb Shell.
My deck costs only $30. What do you folks say? We shuffle up and play. I will tap 4 mana and play an Assault Suit.
Yeah. Oh. How come you know so much about Command? Oh, right.
Play Knight Incarnate, but I'm gonna do its port Invoke.
Ooh. Knight Incarnate.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to do.
How do you feel about lethality?
How would it be more than feel about lethality?